Okay, so today we're going to talk about translations. Before we dive into that, let's just get our homework out and I'll come check that for work completion. So today I can identify and graph and write rules for translations. Yesterday we talked about reflections. Today is translations. Both of those things are under our unit called transformations. Okay? Those are the vocab things you're going to hear. A translation is also called a slide. You're sliding a shape or a point on a graph. A translation is an isometric movement. In geometry, you've got isometric geometry. It's talking about things on a coordinate grid or plane. And it maps all the points of the figure the same distance and direction. So our shape is not changing, all right? So when you translate a shape, the pre-image and the image are congruent. Because I'm not changing the angles or the size or anything. I'm just moving it. So these two shapes are congruent. And I'm going to label them. Yesterday we struggled a little bit with labeling. This is my pre-image. Oops. And when I translate it or transform it, it's called my image. And we use these little apostrophes to signify that this is our new image. So I was looking at your tests and your review, and it's got these vocab things on there. So I would be adding these vocab things. Pre-image is the original one. Image is the translated one or transformed one. And when I do translations, those things are congruent. Okay, for translations. For reflections, they're also congruent. We'll see later this week where maybe some transformations are not congruent. Questions so far? All this vocab is fair game for your tests. I was looking at your tests. There are about 5 to 7 questions to begin with on vocab. What are the labels on a graph? X and Y. Which one is which? Y is up and down. X is the horizontal one. Okay? Today when I'm talking about translations, I'm going to talking about moving left or right when I talk about X. When I talk about X, left, on my graph, left is becoming more what?
Bigger.
Negative. When we go left, we go negative. When I go right, I go positive. If you forget that, don't forget there's a number line on the back wall. When I go left on a graph, I get negative. When I go right on a graph, I get positive. How about my Y values? If we talk about our Y values. Up is what? Positive. Down is
Negative.
Great. And we're going to see that when we do translation rules right now. I just want to remind you of how things move on a graph. So when I talk about a translation rule that we'll see in a minute, when I have X plus a number in my coordinate pair, that means we're going to move which way on the graph? Right. When I have x minus a number in my coordinate pair, we'll be moving left. You're going to see where y values are adding something. How's that going to move in my graph? If I add something to my y value, up. If I subtract something from my y value, we're going to go down. And we're going to see that here in just a minute. Find the image of point A using the following translation rules. So the first rule, it's x plus 2, and it's y minus 4. So everybody first do me a favor and find A on your graph, because we're moving A in all of these. Everybody find A on your graph. It says x plus 2. What should I do, left or right? Right. 2. We're going to count over 1, 2. And then it says y minus 4. Up or down? Down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Where do we land? E. So A just mapped to E.
Wait.
So now you're moving A in all of these problems. So I want you to try it with your team. Find the new point. So we're still using the graph, but now we need to write the rule that would map C to B. So C is where we're starting, and I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the right. So that would be x, what? Plus 6. Good. And then from there I go up 1 and I land on B, so it's y plus 1. Okay, and that's my first rule. That's it. I'm writing the rule that maps C to B. The second one wants you to do B to C, so backwards. What would it look like backwards?
It'd be -6.
Minus 6?
Yeah, and then y minus 1.
Minus 1, okay? Try F to D and E to C with your team. Go. Check out F to D and E to C. Give me a thumbs up if you agree with both of those up there. That's what you got? Fantastic. That's writing a translation rule. Not so bad?
Not so bad.
Not so bad. Any other questions about this first example before we move to our next graph? Flip the page. We got another graph. Oh, man. Now we're going to shift the whole shape. We're going to slide the whole shape here. So, we're going to slide GHS. What does this say in words? Can anyone tell me in words, what is this rule telling us to do to our shape? GHS. Mm-hmm. X plus 3, what's that?
To the right 3.
Yeah.
And?
To the up 2.
Great. Let's do it.
And to the up 2.
Let's do that now. I'm going to take H. I'm going to go right 1, 2, 3, and up 1, 2. I'm going to put a point there and label it H prime. For G, I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3, and up 1, 2. Put a point there and label it G prime. Same thing with S. 1, 2, 3. Up, 1, 2. S prime. It is a shape, so you can't just plot the points. You need to sketch in your lines. So we have translated GHS, right 3 and up 2. I'm going to let you do B with your team. But for B, you're going back to the original, not the new one. So start at the original, GHS, and map it again. Give it a try with your team. Go. Check your second image. We went left 5 and up 1. Check out my notation. Do you see, when I am translating on the same graph, I labeled the second one G double prime, H double prime, S double prime to signify it's a second translation. Okay? So check out that notation. Any questions so far? Example 4, last example, and then we've got a reflection. In example 4, this time I give you a graph and you need to write the rule. Okay, so easiest way to do this is to just pick one point. I'm going to focus on P. P went left 1, 2. So what does that mean? X or Y? X.
Negative minus 2.
Great. And then we went down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Y minus 5. Great. That's the new rule. You write the rule right now for B, and we'll check it in just a second. Write the rule for B. From PDQ to P prime D prime Q prime. What's the rule? Let's check it out. What's different about this one? What's different about this one? Yes. X doesn't move. So I don't have to write plus or minus anything. Just leave X. The only thing that moves is Y. It's been shifted up 3. Okay? So you just leave X alone. You might see that on your test or your homework. Okay? Great. You're doing the reflection now with your team. We have been talking about transformation rules. Yesterday was reflections. Today was translations. We still have 2 more things to add this week, but I want us to start summarizing. The first 3 rules are up there. Think back to our 4th rule. It was a general rule for reflecting over any line. And then your 5th rule will be what we added today. What did we add in today? Turn and talk to your team. We'll talk about the reflection in just a few minutes. Go.
Does that say translations?
Yeah. So 1 through 4 are reflection rules. 5 are translation rules. Again, all of these things are called transformations. Later, tomorrow, we'll be talking about rotations. Thursday, we'll be talking about dilations and scale factors. That's coming up. Okay? Any questions about translations today? Left, right, up, down on a graph?